Hi, welcome to the second lesson in our series of 21 grammar videos titled Grammar with Clarity for Everyone. This lesson is all about complete sentences, what makes a complete sentence versus a sentence fragment, a run-on sentences, and comma splices, which are a type of run-on sentence. Okay, for this page, well, actually, we have 2 pages of notes for this lesson. So we need the following 4 colors. We need red, a good strong red, a light blue, not a dark blue, the same pink that we had from the last lesson, and then orange, all right? And the same orange from last lesson is fine too. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and title the top of our next page. First, go ahead and put a number 2 on the top right, and then title this complete sentences, run-on sentences, and comma splices. Complete sentences, run-on sentences, and comma splices. We'll just write that. All right, my pencil's getting a little bit dull. I'm going to sharpen mine. If yours is not sharpened, I'd like you to take a second and go ahead and take care of that. Make sure that your pencil and your colored pencils are sharpened. All right, so for the organization of this page of notes, actually, I'm going to go ahead and show you just so that you have a pretty good overview of what we're going to be doing. Before we start, you're going to be doing a section of complete sentences, and then a section of run-on sentences, and then on the back side of this page, a section of comma splices with some examples. All right, so we're going to be coming down a couple of lines, like to the second line, I suppose, and we're going to write complete sentences in the middle. So we're going to we want this to be sort of centered. Now, why do you suppose I'm doing that? Why didn't I just put it over here on the left-hand side? Well, I could have, but I wanted to try to create these notes so that certain aspects would jump out at you, so that when you're going back and you're looking at your notes, you can really fast find what you're looking for. So we have 3 areas that we're going to be covering in this particular set of notes. So each area is going to have a heading in the middle of the page in a box. It's a note-taking strategy, just to make things visually more engaging for the brain, for the eye, make you want to go back to it. So we use different things like boxes or circles or bolding or color to help us connect and help us go back. Okay, now we're going to write 2 bullet point notes that are important aspects of what a complete sentence has. So the first bullet point we're going to use, we're going to say it has a subject and a predicate. So every complete sentence has to have a subject and a predicate, which you are now experts on, right? All right, the next thing that is important to note about complete sentences, a complete sentence expresses a full thought. So our next bullet point, again, bullet points are a note-taking tool, expresses a full thought. And does not need anything else to make sense. Okay, so now we're going to write an example of a complete sentence that's really brief. And some people would say, that's not a complete sentence. How could that be a complete sentence? Well, it is a complete sentence. So let's talk about how it could be, how 2 words could be a complete sentence. Well, do we have a subject? Yes, that's Jack. So pick up your orange from previously. And remember, we had identified our subjects with orange. So our subject is Jack. Not only is it our simple subject, it's also our complete subject. Okay, and then our pink for our predicate. Well, do we have a predicate? Yes, bounced. That's an action that Jack did. Jack bounced. That is a complete sentence. It also stands alone by itself, right? We don't need any other information. We know that Jack bounced. Well, I mean, but is Jack bounced like a very engaging sentence? No. Why would we ever use a very brief sentence? Well, authors use brief sentences all the time. They could be used to make a point. They could be used in conjunction with lengthy or compound or complex sentences to shift things up. But more commonly, they're used to emphasize something. They're not commonly used in published writing, but when you do see one, it's there for a reason. Like the author or the writer decided to make it very brief for a reason. So as a reader, part of your job as an engaged reader is to try to determine why did they do that, and to stop and think about that for a little bit. So the next example that we're going to do is over here to the right. So we're going to leave a chunk of white space, okay? And we're going to write, Jack bounced around while yelling. Okay, let's identify what we have going on here now. We have Jack. We still have Jack as our subject, both our simple subject and our complete subject. And then we still have our bounced, right? That's our simple predicate. But now our predicate has gotten more interesting for us. Bounced around while yelling. This is a little bit more engaging for the reader. So here we have our complete predicate. Again, Jack bounced around while yelling. Definitely a complete sentence. More interesting when we add more information. Okay, now we're going to skip 2 lines, come down to the second line, and we're going to write bounced around the room while yelling. Okay. Is this a complete sentence? No. Why is it not a complete sentence? First of all, let's go ahead and put a no over here to the right with a circle. This is not a complete sentence. Why is it not? Well, we're going to come over here and put an asterisk. An asterisk is just a couple of lines that are crossing each other. Really easy to do, another little neat note-taking strategy. And we're just going to write just like this. The reader is left wondering who bounced. But before you write, I want you to see how I set this up, okay? Because I'm not going to write it in a line. Watch this. Okay, you see how I did that and I kept it in this little area right here? Again, it's another note-taking strategy. I'm creating white space and I'm creating something that's visually easier to track. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add color to this, right? So we're wondering who bounced. That's because we're missing the subject. So we are color coding. Remember, we're color coding our subject in orange. So we're going to go ahead and color code the missing who in orange. Why did I put quotation marks around that? Because if the reader is left wondering or saying something, we put that in quotation marks, right? So that's just identifying what a reader might be thinking or saying. Okay, so what do we have here? We don't have a complete sentence, but we do have a predicate, right? We have a complete predicate. Let's pick up our orange or not our orange, I'm sorry, our pink and underline that. And then we're going to write something else. We're going to write, I want to identify, I want you to come over here really quick, and I want you to write, don't get confused just because there is a noun. We're writing about this right here. Okay, after confused, come down again. All right, so, I mean, it might seem silly to you that I have to say that, but I do because it's common. Students will say, well, yes, it's a complete sentence because there's a subject. And then I'll say, but the subject is who or what is doing the action. And they'll say, but that's a noun. So it has to be the subject of the sentence. So again, we have to be careful that we're not just picking out nouns and verbs here. What we're doing is we're picking out who or what the sentence is about. The sentence is not about the room. The sentence is about who is doing all this action. And that's Jack. That's who's missing. Okay, now we are done with complete sentences and sentence fragments. By the way, this is technically called a sentence fragment. Complete sentence, complete sentence. Now we're going to come down here and we're going to write in the middle our next heading, run on. Headings have to have capital letters at the beginnings of them, so make sure you do that too. Run on sentences, and we're going to put that in a box. You see how we're kind of correlating here. So that's one section, and now here we have our next section. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to follow the pattern here. After our heading, we have a bullet point that gives us breakdown information about complete sentences. So let's do the same thing with our run-on sentences. So let's do a bullet point. And this is a run-on sentence is going to be, by definition, 2 or more complete sentences are combined without the correct punctuation. Okay, now I would like you, I forgot to tell you, but I'd like you to go ahead and grab your dark blue, please. Your dark blue colored pencil. Did I just grab purple? I did. Okay, it's getting a little dark in this room. You're going to grab your dark blue colored pencil. This is very important because from this point forward in this, in every one of these videos, every time we identify a complete sentence, also known officially as an independent clause, we're going to go ahead and underline that bad boy in dark blue. That's the only thing. We're going to use dark blue only for independent clauses, okay? So let's go ahead after we underline that and let's draw an arrow. And this is another note-taking strategy. It doesn't matter that my arrow's covering this. That doesn't matter because I want this to pop out, and this is helping it pop. That I'm saying, okay, yeah, I'm writing this definition, but guess what? I'm also wanting to pull an additional layer of information out. And I don't want it blended in with this. I want it separate. So I'm just pointing out that I'm talking about independent clauses here. And don't worry if you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say the term independent clause, because you will soon. I will be teaching it to you. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and just pick it out of there so we've got it at any rate. So here, this is our definition of a run-on sentence. When you have 2 or more complete sentences and they're combined without the correct punctuation. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and write the same sentence slightly different, okay? The sentence, or excuse me, the same group of 2 sentences. The sentences are, I love to eat ice cream. I would eat it every day. So you're going to write it the first time. We're going to write it like this. We're going to come down 2 lines and we're going to indent a little bit to like right here, okay? We want it to fit on one line, so don't write huge, but we also want to notice that this is like a subset. So we're using a little bit of white space here too. So I love to eat ice cream. I would eat it every day. Don't put a period here, okay? Because we're trying to do an example of run-ons, okay? I would eat it every day. Okay. We put a period here. This is a run-on sentence. Why? Well, let's pick up our dark blue again, because I love to eat ice cream is an independent clause. It is a complete sentence. It stands alone on its own. Okay, it has a subject and a predicate. It stands alone. I would eat it every day. That is also an independent clause. It is a complete sentence that stands alone by itself. So when we put them together, we are creating a problem. We're making a mistake, and this is a big mistake. So this is a big fat no. Okay, that's a run-on sentence. Let's try this again with correct punctuation. I love to eat ice cream, period. I would eat it every day. Period. Okay, does this work? Yes. I love to eat ice cream. That stands alone all by itself, and it has a period. I would eat it every day. Again, the same thing, and it has a period. Well, why wouldn't we just do this to fix this problem then? Okay, well, when we write what I like to call short choppy sentences like this, and we have one short choppy and then another short choppy, it makes our writing a little bit weaker. So it's always nicer if we can blend them. Now, I want you to know that as we move on in these videos, I'm going to be talking more explicitly about compound sentences, complex sentences, compound complex sentences, and you'll be feeling very confident with those. So I'm going to throw out some phrases and some terms here, but I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Realize you will be learning this soon, okay? But I do have to, at the same time, identify things correctly. So these are simple, basic sentences. When you are the age that you are in middle school and high school, you want to try to create more complex sentence structure, more mature sentence structure, whether that's compound sentences or complex. So we're going to try blending this and see if it sounds better to the ears and it feels better rolling off the tongue, okay? So let's write this with that structure, compound sentence structure. I love to eat ice cream, comma, and I would eat it every day. Ooh, I'm just barely getting that to fit. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my red colored pencil. I'd like you to do the same thing. And I'd like you to go real heavy over that comma in red. And I'd like you to go real heavy over that word and in red. Okay, I'm not going to get into this in too much depth, but this is what we call a coordinating conjunction. And there are 7 of them. And sometimes we call them boy fans. And those are the words but, or, yet, for, and, nor, and so. And those are really cool ways to make compound sentences and to blend 2 complete thoughts together. So this is a big fat, well, this one was a yes, but kind of boring. This one is a yes, we like this. This is good. I love to eat ice cream and I would eat it every day. That sounds better, doesn't it? Okay, here's another way that I'm going to show you that we're going to learn later how to write compound sentences, but it's another way to blend this and to fix the run-on sentence issue. I love to eat ice cream, semicolon, not colon, semicolon. I would eat it every day. Huh. Now, could you always use a semicolon in place of a comma and a coordinating conjunction? No. You can only do that to make a compound sentence if what follows makes logical sense to go along with it. I love to eat ice cream. I would eat it every day. It sounds the same as this, but in our writing, it's visually a bit more mature. So this is simply another way to make a compound sentence. That's what both of these are. So these are both yeses. Okay, we are now ready to flip your page over and we're going to do the back side of lesson 2. Okay, and just like we did before, we have our headings. Remember, we've got 3 that we're doing. So we have our complete sentence heading, our run-on sentence heading, and directly below the heading, we had our bullet points. So now we're going to flip this over and we're going to do our comma splices heading. Okay. And then we're going to do our bullet point information. Well, what is a comma splice? It is a type of run-on, sorry. And it is a same exact thing here. So it is 2 or more complete sentences are combined without the correct punctuation. Sorry, I was pointing to the wrong thing. Yeah. So we're going to write the same thing. So it's 2 or more complete thoughts, but this time we're going to get more specific about the punctuation. 2 or more complete, oops. Sometimes when I write fast, I accidentally misspell. Complete thoughts, and then we're going to add incorrectly combined with a comma. So if we come back here, I'm going to flip back real quick. I love to eat ice cream, comma, and I would eat it every day. If we omitted the end, this would be a big fat no. This is no this would be a grammar error. We have to have that coordinating conjunction. These two guys work together. They're buds, they have to go together if we're combining two independent clauses. Now, some people will say, and I'll address this more when we talk about compound sentences, but when I see the word and, do I always have to put a comma in front of it? Nope, because and has more than one job in grammar. And has a job of combining two or more independent clauses. It has to work with a comma as its buddy, and also has a job of listing things. But when we're listing things, that's not the reason we're using this comma here, okay? All right. So here we're going to do our ice cream. We're sticking with the same ice cream situation here, and we're talking about comma splices. So really fast, we're going to come over here to our left, and we're going to write, I love to eat ice cream, comma, I would eat it every day. Okay, now we have the color code. That's an independent clause. That's an independent clause. That comma is done incorrectly. No, sir, we cannot simply put a comma in between two independent clauses. So we're going to write an arrow and we're going to say, nope. What's happening here? Well, it is missing its helper word. So we're going to write, it is missing its helper word. And remember how I talked about boy fans? And again, I'm just going to do that briefly here. We're going to talk about this in much more depth later, but boy fans, this is one way that people remember this. This is an acronym to help you remember the 7 coordinating conjunctions that we can use with a comma to combine two independent thoughts. So we have but, or, yet, for, and, nor, and so. And those are helper words, but guess what they're officially called? Coordinating conjunctions. All right, and what do conjunctions do? They help us connect things. Okay, they're not, I know it's two long words. Who cares? They're just helpers. That's all they are, helper words. Don't let that throw you. Now we're going to just put some examples down here and we're going to talk about, do these work or do these not work? So I'm going to go ahead and set this paper here. The first one I want you to write, we've got only 4 we're going to do and then we're done with this. I want you to write, I love to eat ice cream, comma, so I would eat it every day. Then I want you to go over the comma in red and go over so in red. Okay, if I'm moving a little bit too fast for you, just pause the video, okay? This works, right? Because the two thoughts go together naturally with the word so in between. I love to eat ice cream, so I would eat it every day. Okay, true story for me. And yes, this works well. That's a yes. I love to eat ice cream, comma, but I would eat it every day. That also works. Go ahead and pause the video, please, and write this down. Okay, you're back. You've written it down. One thing I want you to pay attention to is that we have to be careful. We cannot use any of these coordinating conjunctions willy-nilly. We can't just say, oh, I think I want to throw the word yet in there or the word nor in there because I don't use them very often. So I know that a coordinating conjunction can fit there, so I'm just going to throw one in. You can't do that. They have to actually make sense, right? This one is like, I love to eat ice cream, so I would eat it every day. That's positive. I love to eat ice cream, but I would eat it every day. That sends the message out, I'm not buying ice cream because if I had it, I would eat it every day. So that's like a kind of more of a negative thought process there, but it's still effective. But how about this one? I love to eat ice cream, comma, nor I would eat it every day. No, that doesn't make sense. The word nor doesn't fit there. And so we couldn't just throw it in there. That's one example. And then the last example, I love to eat ice cream or I would eat it every day. Again, it simply doesn't make sense. So we can't do it. So go ahead and pause the video and copy these down. Okay, now you're back and I'm going to have us look at some examples from iExcel. Okay, so this next example is from ninth grade, W 2.2. And the first thing I want you to do is read the example out loud. It's asking you, is there a sentence fragment? On November 18th, 1903, the Hawaii-Bunau-Varilla Treaty was signed. Excuse me, the Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty was signed, which gave the United States possession of the Panama Canal Zone. So it says, is there a sentence fragment? On November 18th, 1903, the Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty was signed. Is that a complete sentence? Yes, it is a complete sentence. We have a subject and we have a predicate, which gave the United States possession of the Panama Canal Zone. That is technically not a complete sentence. We're left wondering, what are we talking about here? We do sort of have an understanding that we're referencing this, but it's not considered a complete sentence here. So this is considered a fragment. Okay, so we would just go ahead and click that and then click yes, and then you would get your instant feedback. Okay, this next one is exactly the same thing. You're looking for a sentence fragment. So you first read on October 31st, 1984, 2 men assassinated the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. Do we have a subject and a verb here? We do. That's a complete thought. Whose son Rajiv succeeded her as Prime Minister. Whose son Rajiv succeeded her as Prime Minister is not considered a complete sentence because it needs to be connected to the previous sentence with a comma. One thing to note also is that this is really technically a relative clause, but they're considering it to be a sentence fragment. Regardless, it needs to be connected to the previous sentence with a comma. So it's not functioning grammatically correctly here. Okay, the last example for this lesson that I would like to address is from the 10th grade, W.4. And this is the focus is choosing punctuation to avoid fragments and run-on sentences. So it's asking you, which is the best way to complete the text? So of course you look at the 3 options and then you read the sentence and you read it with the 3 different options. Are we ready? We're going to do it together. Stream of consciousness is a literary style that mimics the flow of natural thought and abandons conventional punctuation. Now, it's important that we allow our eyes to see what's happening, because if we just read the first sentence, stream of consciousness is a literary style that mimics the flow of natural thought, period. Yes, that is a complete sentence. But then let's read the next one as a complete sentence. And abandons conventional punctuation. That's not a complete thought, that's a fragment. So it is best to not start a sentence with and, because we're creating potentially a sentence fragment. So this one is definitely a no-go. Let's look at this one now. Thought, comma, furthermore it. Okay. Stream of consciousness is a literary style that mimics the flow of natural thought. Furthermore, furthermore, it abandons conventional punctuation. This creates a comma splice with the comma after thought. This is not a coordinating conjunction. So this does not work as a possibility. This one does, though. Stream of consciousness is a literary style that mimics the flow of natural thought and abandons conventional punctuation. Why don't we need a comma in front of that end? Didn't we just have a lesson that discussed that? Well, we don't put a comma there because what's happening here? We're listing 2 things. The first thing that's being listed is a literary style that mimics the flow of natural thought. The second thing that's being listed is abandons conventional punctuation. So we have 2 things that are being listed, and the word and is used as a listing tool here. It's not combining 2 thoughts. So it's listing 2 things together. That's how it's working, and that's why that's the best choice here. So it's always helpful to read the sentence aloud. Think about what these different punctuation marks are doing to the first sentence and to the second sentence, and kind of break it down that way. That's my My best suggestion for you that these are going to be some trickier ones, but also notice this is a 10th grade one. If you're in 7th grade or 8th grade, you wouldn't be choosing the 10th grade work, right? So some of the work is going to be at a more advanced level because they're your older students. So here's the path on IXL. If you're in 7th grade, go ahead and write down Y 5 through 7. So that's 5, 6, and 7. If you're in 8th grade, write Z 5 through 7. 9th grade is W 2 through 4. 10th grade is W 2 through 4. And 11th grade is T 1 through 3. Now, again, when we talk about how many of these should we do, ideally, we would complete 10 correct. Okay, a little bit less is okay. A little bit more is definitely better, but ideally 10 correct. All right, thanks for hanging in there, you guys. See you on the next video.